Everybody already knows about the Josh Allen thing, so not to worry about that not being live. Yeah, everybody knows about that. So, Doug, I'll bring you in about in a couple of seconds. Dave and I'll
Cool.
do an intro, and then we'll bring you on in. Sound good?
Sounds good. Yep.
All right, Dave, let's do this.
All right.
3, 2. All right, Dave, I got a question for you. You ready for this? You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. I already asked this question. I think we already discussed the 40. We've talked about the NFL Combine before, but here's my question to you. If you were at NFL Draft Night and say you knew you were going to be picked top 10, what would you be wearing that night? What would your outfit be?
I mean, I'd be wearing like a nice suit. I don't know. I wouldn't go over the top. Like I wouldn't have like any candy striped blazer or like neon colors or anything. I'd probably just go the classic look, like a navy blue suit with a tie of maybe one of the teams I was talking with the most or something. I don't know.
Now that could open up questions in terms of tampering or something like that. I guess it really wouldn't matter, but that would open up some questions. That'd be cool if you like had the suit jacket buttoned and then you open it up and it's the tie of the team that picked you. That'd be pretty dope. See, I would go the opposite. You know how I am. I would go completely ostentatious. I'd have like the most colorful suit. I'd be Russell Westbrook, Cam Newton. I'd be just completely over the top. I'd be killing it. I'd have a nice vest. I love vests, so I definitely would wear a vest for sure. Some slick wingtip shoes, and
of course.
I like the idea we have with the tie there. I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna have the tie of the team that picks me. Hopefully, it's the right team. And if it's not, then I guess I just won't open the suit. But hopefully, the team that picks me, we're in talks with, will end up taking me. So I'll do that. But we'll bring in our guest to see what his answer is. This is Nesson's Doug Kyed. He covers the Patriots. It's very nice of him to come on, especially since, Doug, we missed you last week. And by myself, I said to Dave, I was like, I feel like it's somewhere in the 20s of April. And I checked the DMs, and I'm like, oh, no, it was last Tuesday. That's not great. But Doug, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Fortunately, I was extremely busy and was like also thinking myself, I think this is supposed to be soon, but I don't know what day it specifically was. So I might have missed it as well if you guys didn't.
No, it's incumbent upon us to do the follow up. So we appreciate you trying to take some of the heat, but it's on us. But anyway, Doug, if you were a top 10 draft pick in the NFL draft, what would you wear to draft night?
So I think that depends. I think the first day, absolutely wear the suit, go all out. If you don't get drafted the first day, then you're out there in a hoodie, like sweat shorts.
Yeah.
Like if they don't care about me, then I don't care about them. I think that's the attitude you have to have. If you get like, I forgot who the best example of that is, but like, Aaron Rodgers, but on day 2. Yeah.
Right. That's true. I was thinking Aaron Rodgers. That was my first thought.
Like, I know. I forgot it. Like guys who didn't get drafted until day 2, but there's definitely been some instances.
I think my favorite. Oh, sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say there was Daquan Bowers years ago who had the knee issues. He was supposed to be like a top 10 pick, and he slid to like the 2nd or 3rd round.
Right. Yeah.
My favorite pissed off draft pick look is not the NFL. It's in the. I don't know if you've ever seen the Winning Time 30 for 30 about Reggie Miller.
Oh yeah.
And Steve Alford was supposed to get picked by the Patriots, his hometown team. And when they showed Reggie Miller getting picked, and Steve Alford is absolutely, like, he wants nothing to do with anybody being in the South. Like, he wants everyone. Is the best disappointed draft pick look until Aaron Rodgers. Like, those two are Hall of Fame level bad. Like you didn't want a camera on you at the time. At least Jim Kelly, who hated getting picked by Buffalo, was very nice about it.
That is pretty rough, though. Like, obviously, those guys are going to get jobs anyway, but imagine like a camera on you if you get turned down by like your dream job, like the dream place you want to work or whatever. And then it's like, oh, I guess I have to like go to Buffalo instead. I don't know, like a life-changing moment of disappointment. And there's a camera like 3 inches from your face.
That'd be pretty jarring to go from Miami of Florida to Buffalo. I mean, didn't at first, so it's definitely a reason why. But we are here to do a little Patriots talk, a little Patriots draft preview. And we might be reined in a little bit here. Doug's a very objective look at the Patriots. Doug, where are you from?
Where am I from? I was actually born in Seattle, and then moved to Sharon, Massachusetts when I was 11. So, yeah, I kind of grew up in both spots. I can't give like a short answer to where I'm from.
Right. No, that's understandable. Dave and I can. We are both very much New England natives. Born and raised, nice 3-run home run there from I don't know who. That's going to not take us at all. Dave's born and raised in Stoneham. I'm born and raised in a city called Warwick, Rhode Island.
Nice.
The name of this show is derived from when Dave got a job at ESPN. We were originally going to cross state lines every week to record the episode. That lasted, 3 weeks, Dave?
3 weeks. That was a lot of driving.
It was. Yeah. I remember the last episode we recorded together in person was when Edelman tore his ACL in the preseason. That was and the Kyrie got traded the same night.
Oof.
That was a wild week. But anyway, yeah, we need to be reined in a little bit when it comes to the Patriots.
For sure.
I know how your mentions are, Doug. There are a lot of Patriots fans in them, and they are not so kind. But the Patriots are in an interesting situation this year. Everybody wants them to trade up. Everybody hopes they're going to trade up. I certainly do. So as somebody who covers the team, how do you kind of read their situation right now?
I don't think they'll trade up. That's where I kind of currently stand on that. I think they should. I mean, they just spent all this money in free agency. They don't have a lot of needs. They have 10 draft picks and barely enough spots on their roster to put all those players on the roster. So if they were going to trade up, this would definitely be the year. At the same time, at least from the people that I've talked to recently, it does still seem unlikely that happens. But obviously there's other elements in play that they're not in control of. So if some player starts to fall, or if the guy that they thought they'd be getting at 15 gets taken, then maybe they do warm up to that idea. It's tough to predict, but at this point, I'd say there's less of a chance of it happening than of it happening.
So I always kind of am of the mind that QB isn't necessarily the only position they target if they did move up. And I think maybe an offensive lineman or a receiver, maybe between the 9 to 12 range would be somewhere they consider moving up. Who is someone other than a QB, because you get all the questions about QBs all the time. Right. Who is someone other than a QB that you could see them trading up for if they fell?
So for me personally, I would trade up for one of the 3 receivers, Chase, Waddle, or Smith, just because I think that all 3 of those guys could wind up being, all pro wide receivers in the NFL. I think that they have seriously high potential. So out of that range of players, that top 15, those would probably be my picks. Otherwise, I think they'd probably be fine just waiting on an offensive lineman. There's no real priority defender, I feel like, who's going to go in that top 15 range. If you don't get Patrick Surtain, then you can still get JC Horn. If you don't get, Micah Parsons, and there's other linebackers deeper into the draft that you can get. So if it's not a quarterback, I'd probably say it would be a wide receiver, but I also probably don't see them trading up for a player other than a quarterback. I actually do think it would be more likely they would trade up for a quarterback than for another position there.
It would be perfectly on brand for Bill Belichick to pick up and then take Penei Sewell or Kyle Pitts. I know Kyle Pitts is the generational tight end talent.
Right.
And Sewell's an incredible tackle, but Belichick trading up to draft Kyle Pitts after signing Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith would probably be the most on-brand thing he could do. But let's live in a fantasy land for a moment, because there's three things the Patriots could do here. One is trading up, the other is standing pat, the other is trading back. So let's start with the fantasy land option first. Let's trade up. Say they trade for Atlanta's pick and they move up to number 4. Do you really think San Francisco is going to take Mac Jones with that 3rd pick? I don't think so. What do you think?
I think it's possible. And my defense on that for the 49ers, and I like Fields a lot more than Mac Jones. I like Fields more than Zach Wilson as well. But my defense on the 49ers taking Mac Jones is that if you want Mac Jones to do, or if you want a quarterback who does exactly what Mac Jones did last season, if you just want him to play it safe, you don't need him to make crazy throws, you don't need him to be super mobile, you just need him to be extremely accurate and kind of let the rest of the players around him be the strength of that roster, be the strength of that team, which is essentially what they asked Jimmy Garoppolo to do when they went to the Super Bowl. You saw last year that Mac Jones can do exactly that. I just don't think that you can justify trading that high for that player. So maybe they still wind up doing it. I actually would say it's the most likely scenario is that they do take Mac Jones. Then Trey Lance would probably be number 2 on that list, then Justin Fields. But yeah, I don't know. It seems wild that they would trade up for Mac Jones, but it seems like the case. And like I said, like if they just want him to be Jimmy Garoppolo or like a better version of Jimmy Garoppolo, it's kind of what he was last year with Alabama. So I don't know. It might work out for them. It's just not a very high upside pick.
So obviously you kind of mentioned earlier, the Patriots have been very active in free agency. They made a lot of signings, a lot of high money, low money, mid money. They kept all the guys they wanted to. Now that being said, though, what do you see as their top 2, say, position of needs?
Quarterback's definitely the top one, I would say. Beyond that, it's all kind of like depth signings or future depth needs or future needs or, guys who could be role players. So wide receiver is one place. Like if they did get one of those 3 guys that I mentioned earlier, Waddle, Smith, or Chase, like they would become starters in the offense because the talent at wide receiver is that if they brought in one of those top 3 wide receivers, they would be better than, Bourne, or they would be better than Myers or someone else. Beyond that, I think that somewhere in the front 7, whether that's at the edge spot, linebacker, defensive tackle, that would be up there as well. Immediate needs, cornerback's not one of them just because Gilmore, Jackson are still on the roster. Safety, they've got plenty of pieces. Offensive line, they've got, the full starting unit back, or not back, but they brought back Trent Brown. They've got a starting lineup set there. Tight end, obviously, they're all set at. Running back, they're all set at. So, yeah, wide receiver would be there, quarterback, and then otherwise somewhere in the front 7, they could probably make an upgrade.
So we'll address the if they stay pat part when we do our little mock draft because we're not doing any trades in that one. So we'll address that when we actually have to make the decision. But if they trade back, do you think it's kind of a soft trade back, like 3 or 4 picks? Do you think they move out of the first round entirely? What do you think is the most likely scenario there?
I don't think you can really move out of the first round if you're at 15, just because, I mean, what would you even get in that scenario? You would get probably a second round pick plus a future first. Maybe they do that. I just think it's kind of a waste. I think that you want to get a player on a rookie contract with the amount of signings that they made. So if they did trade back, probably in like the early 20s or something, they would try to move back a little bit. If the 2 guys that they want at 15 are still there, then maybe they just move back a couple spots and take a gamble and hope that one of them is still there at 20 or 21 or somewhere around there.
So you mentioned corner before. What's your read on just obviously no one really knows of the Patriots, but I feel like you're more tied in than especially me and Jake. But
I would say
what's your read on the Gilmore situation? And part 2 would be, do you see J.C. Jackson as someone that they'd invest in long term? Obviously, it would have to be in free agency next year at this point, I'd say.
With Gilmore, it's tough because he had the injury last season. Really bad timing for him personally to have that injury. So I can't really see a team trading something substantial for him and then having to give him a new contract, because he's not just going to accept a trade and then play on a $7 million salary. He's going to want the salary bump. He's going to want the extension. So maybe the Patriots and him can figure out some sort of middle ground to keep him around. I'm not sure if it would be the extension that he wants, but maybe you throw a few $1 million his way just to make him happy and then say, okay, now you're free to hit free agency next season and you don't have to worry about us anymore. With J.C. Jackson, it's tough because he was an undrafted free agent. So that's a situation to me, and it's similar to Malcolm Butler, where if you're signing a guy as an undrafted free agent, you're going to take a risk one way or the other on a player that you might not take on a player that's drafted. And for J.C. Jackson, that was the character issues that he had. He had an arrest in college. He transferred from Maryland to Florida. It was kind of a whole mess there with him. He's been a model citizen since he's come to New England, but I could also understand the Patriots saying, like, all right, we got 4 great years out of this player. He was a starter. We won a Super Bowl with him. He got a bunch of interceptions, but maybe we don't now want to invest the $60 million on a player that for one reason or another we didn't want to draft when he was coming out. So that's personally how I look at it. At the same time, they know that he can be successful in their defense. So that would be the case for them re-signing him. But I wouldn't be surprised if this was a situation where, yep, he plays under the tender this season, and then maybe it's kind of a mutual parting because the value is going to be so far off between what the Patriots are willing to pay and what Jackson would want on the open market.
So I posed this question to Dave maybe a couple weeks ago now, but I'm coming back from 5 years in the future to this present day. And I say to you, not counting Mac Jones, so one of the 4 quarterbacks, Lawrence, Fields, Wilson, Lance, was a huge bust. What name do you think is coming out of my mouth next?
Lance. Just because, I mean, look at Trey Lance, like just on the surface. Like if you said 5 years ago, like, hey, yeah, there's going to be this FCS prospect. He's going to start for 1 season. He throws like 17 passes per game. He played 1 game in the season before you're drafting him. And yeah, he's also going to be a top 5 pick. Like that doesn't make sense. That like doesn't make sense at all. He was a 2-star recruit or 3-star recruit, whatever it is. He didn't work out at his pro day because when he was coming out of high school, he ran like a 4.9. So like he was a great scrambler in college, but that's also against FCS talent. And like I said, started 1 season, didn't throw an interception. That was fantastic. He looked great last season. I think that he's got upside. I think he could very well be a great quarterback, but everything surrounding him being this top prospect really just doesn't make a whole lot of sense on the surface. So I don't know. That would probably be my pick. I could also make a case for Zach Wilson just because he wasn't very good in 2019, was very good in 2020 when BYU's competition was extremely low. They didn't play any Power 5 teams. At one point, UW, Washington, said like, "Hey, BYU, we want to play you," and BYU was like, "Oh, no, we're good. We'll find a different opponent. We'll play someone else." Like, I'm curious to see how that would have went if Zach Wilson did play a Pac-12 school, because when they were playing tougher competition in 2019, he wasn't as good as he was last season.
Zach Wilson is a good pick because even though Adam Gase has gone, I mean, he was there way too long anyway. But even though he's gone, it is still the Jets. I mean, right. I like Robert Saleh a lot. I think he's a fantastic pick for them. It is still the Jets. I mean, maybe if he won a Super Bowl, but like if he wins a Super Bowl, he's probably the best Jets quarterback of all time. Like, yeah,
probably. I mean, it's Namath right now, and he was like, great moments, bad stats guy.
I mean, Chad Pennington, legend of the Jets uniform. He had some good years there.
Ken O'Brien, I guess, was pretty good in the 80s. That was like before my time. So I just trust everyone when they say that Ken O'Brien was good. I'm like, yeah, sure.
Hey, they did not like him when he got drafted.
True.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like Zach Wilson's an interesting answer because it is the Jets and they are so prone to big busts. But I think Trey Lance is. Dave, I think was Trey Lance the answer you gave?
I said Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to park on that curb for a second. Justin Fields is the guy that, I mean, Trevor Lawrence is the number 1 pick no matter what.
Right.
But you said you have Justin Fields second on your board, as many people do in terms of quarterbacks. So why is it that Justin Fields might slip to number 4, potentially number 5 down the board? Why is he falling?
It's a really good question, and I don't really know. Like, so I put together this stat over the weekend where I basically just combined average depth of throw, accuracy rate, and turnover-worthy plays. And Zach Wilson came out on top. So that's certainly a case for him. Justin Fields was number 2, though. So I guess, see, based strictly on 2020, that Zach Wilson was better than Justin Fields. That's when you throw out the quality of competition. That's when you throw out the players that they were playing with, throw everything else out, look at them purely in a vacuum. And I guess Zach Wilson might have been a little bit better. So I suppose I can see that case for why Zach Wilson might go above Justin Fields. And then for Mac Jones, I kind of explained that earlier, that maybe that's exactly what they're looking for. So it might not be so much as like Justin Fields is falling down the board across the league. It might just be these specific teams prefer a different quarterback for one reason or another. Because I reached out to someone over the weekend because I spent way too much time watching Justin Fields. I watched every single one of his snaps from 2020. And I reached out to someone in the league and said, what is the media missing on Justin Fields? Because this guy looks incredible. And he said, the media, what are the 49ers doing if they trade up for anyone other than Justin Fields? So that tells me that this isn't just some like media thing that's falling in love with Justin Fields. He's well thought of around the NFL. It might just so happen that the teams that are picking like quarterbacks more than him, which is just a strange scenario, and it could wind up making Fields the steal of the draft.
I'll tell you what, before I throw it back to you, Dave, I really hope he doesn't go to the Broncos, because if you get drafted by the Broncos, it's like the kiss of death for quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, God respect John Elway for all of his work in the NFL, all of his career numbers as a quarterback. That man cannot divine quarterback talent himself. Paxton Lynch is all you really need to look at. Beyond that, more. But yeah, I'm sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
Who is the most Broncos quarterback in this draft? Is it Kyle Trask?
We just gotta find the tallest guy that can throw the furthest.
Felipe Franks is the tallest guy, and Kyle Trask definitely can't throw the furthest. So yeah, I don't know. That's maybe Felipe Franks is their guy.
Are we talking most Elway-esque, or are we talking most like the quarterback most likely to get his eye?
The quarterback most likely to get his eye, because the quarterback most like Elway is probably Justin Fields, right. But I don't know if he's tall enough for John Elway standards.
That's true. I don't know the dimensions on Kellen Mond. Seems like he might love some Kellen Mond.
He's taller, I think. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, hey, Drew Lock might be the guy of the future there. You never know.
It's true.
You never know.
I mean, I feel like we do at this point. But Dave, go ahead.
All right. So I feel like everyone kind of is all over the quarterbacks for the draft, and obviously it's a huge position, so it makes sense. But what is one person that's overrated and underrated so far, as from what you've seen and what you've done, the research that you've done for the first round picks?
That's a good question. I'm just gonna like look at a list real quick to think of that for a second. Underrated. I think Jalen Phillips might be a little bit underrated. I understand the concerns there with, like retired from football because of some concussions. He got into a traffic accident and lost 3 bones in his wrist or something. And there's some serious injury concerns there. There might also be some kind of off-field concerns, but at the same time, he very well might be the best defensive player in this entire class. So he might be underrated. There's a reason for why he might be underrated, but I also think that could be a reason why, he might wind up being a steal because of that. As far as overrated, I think Micah Parsons might wind up going lower than people think. I think he's a good player and he's a fantastic athlete. The Penn State Pro Day, I think, was a little bit wacky. I think they were actually running 38-yard, 40-yard dashes. Out of all the Pro Days this year, those were a little bit off the board. But I do think that people are discounting the off-field stuff with Micah Parsons. I think that he's got some maturity issues, and he was part of the big hazing scandal at Penn State. So I think that everyone, will probably, if he's on the board at 15 and the Patriots pass on him, a lot of people will wonder why. But I think that would be the reason why, and why he might be overrated a little bit just by media rather than teams.
So let's take a look at the Patriots drafts of recent years. We'll kind of spend a little more time in the first 3 rounds, but we'll run through those 4 through 7 rounders. Some interesting names there. Because we're going to go through these quick. We'll start with 2010, but we'll flash back to when Dave and I were 16 years older. Dave, you were 17 at that point. Dave's a little bit grayer than I am.
A little more wiser is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, sure.
But okay.
So in 2010, the first 2 picks were McCourty and Gronkowski. Pretty good players. From what I know, I've only played for a while. They're pretty good. Then you have Jermaine Cunningham and Brandon Spikes.
Yep.
Brandon Spikes was a decent player for a while. He did have that issue where was it a traffic accident? What was his deal?
Hit a deer, hit and run, something like that. Something weird.
Right. Yeah. Something strange like that. Because he go to Buffalo and then come back.
Yes. And then he was immediately gone again. Yeah.
Everybody's favorite thing to hit Belichick with: wide receivers.
Yeah.
Taylor Price.
Not great.
5 catches for 80 yards with the Patriots. Not good. Aaron Hernandez was a 4th rounder that year.
Yep.
Fun fact about Aaron Hernandez, he's the youngest Patriot to ever score a touchdown in a game.
Wow.
21 years, 1 day old.
Wow. Yeah, he was very young when he was drafted.
Yeah, he was. Zoltan Esco, pour one out for Zoltan. Punter in the 5th round. Ted Larson, Thomas Welch, Brandon Diedrich. Cade Weston doesn't even have a Pro Football Reference page.
Nope.
And Zach Robinson, that 7th round quarterback out of Oklahoma State.
Yep. I don't know if he even lasted to the season.
Probably not. He does have a page, so he probably got picked up by somebody. But Cade
he's
Weston,
also a coach now. I think he's with like the Rams or something now.
Yeah, he's a coach.
Yeah.
For a second, I thought we were talking about the other Zach with a C, the coach of the Bengals. Forgive me.
No, I think McVay likes Zach's with a C. He doesn't like those.
What is that last
unnecessary letters?
I can't remember it.
Zach Taylor.
Taylor, thank you, Zach Taylor. Yes.
Zach Robinson also worked for PFF for a year.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, he did.
2011, Nate Solder was the 1st round pick that year. Good.
Oh, also, just in 2010, Jermaine Cunningham over Carlos Dunlap. That was the big mystery at the time. Carlos Dunlap was falling, and then they wound up picking a Florida defensive end, and it wasn't Carlos Dunlap.
That is certainly
perplexing.
Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we did this in trivia one time. Doug, do you know who the pick that the Patriots got for Jamie Collins? They never used it. Do you know who ended up getting picked with that pick?
What year would that have been? That would have been 2017.
Around there, yeah.
It was a 3rd round pick. No, I probably knew this at some point, but what is it?
I believe it was Kenny Galladay.
Oh yeah.
Yep. We'll get to Jamie Collins in just a second. So we have Nate Solder, great pick. Then we have Razai Dowling, probably the biggest bust of the past 10 years in the Patriots.
Yeah.
From Virginia, Dave, you would have probably known that off the top of your head. Shane Vereen was a 2nd rounder. Stephen Ridley, 3rd rounder. Good picks.
Doubled up there. Yep.
It's true. Shane Vereen, a true he crawled so James White could walk. He wasn't. I remember James White getting scratched for the Seattle Super Bowl. Healthy scratch.
Yeah.
That was who he was. Shane Vereen was what. I mean, James White was what Shane Vereen was.
Exactly. No, that was a good pick. Went to the Giants. Didn't really do much.
Yeah. He cashed in though. Good for him.
Yep.
Dave's favorite Patriots quarterback, Ryan Mallett, was a 3rd rounder that year.
That was rough.
Ryan Mallett's numbers with the Pats: 1,835 yards, 9 touchdowns, 10 picks. These might be. I think these are just Patriots numbers.
Yeah.
Or no, these are probably career numbers.
Be career, yeah.
These have to be career numbers because those. There's no way he played that much for the
No.
Patriots. Those must be Ravens or Texans games.
Right.
Marcus Cannon was a 5th rounder that year.
Yep.
Pretty good pick. Lee Smith, the tight end, who I don't think really played here at all.
I don't think he made the team. I think that he was like Ted Larson, where didn't make the team and then went on to have super long careers elsewhere.
And then Markel Carter and Malcolm Williams. I don't know either of those people.
No. Unmemorable. Malcolm Williams was a guy who did not play defense at TCU, and the Patriots drafted him anyway, and he didn't even wind up being a special teamer here.
Dave, any thoughts on Markel Carter or Malcolm Williams?
Markel Carter, I think, was the edge rusher they took. He was the only one there. I think he's from Central Arkansas.
Yeah.
That is very correct. Very great. Number 1 pick in 2012 was Chandler Jones.
Yep.
Pretty good. And then 4 picks later was Dante Heisler.
Even better.
Yeah, I would say those were 2 pretty good picks. About 120 sacks combined in their careers. Most of those are obviously Chandler Jones, but Tavon Wilson, Jake Paquette, Nate Ebner, Alfonso Dennard, and Jeremy Ebert were the only other picks in that draft. Nate Ebner, special teamer.
Dennard was pretty good for 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, 7th round pick.
Wilson was one of the many Detroit Lions guys, right?
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. Dave, you're a big Jake Paquette guy, right?
I honestly thought he was going to be pretty good, and then they moved him to tight end too. And
right.
It was just a very weird career for him.
I think he joined the Marines too now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
it was weird because when he got picked, I remember everyone talking about how like he was like pro ready, like he was going to be the steal of the draft in the 3rd round, and he was the least pro ready out of all of them.
Yeah, he like just never played.
Yeah,
you go.
he never won any spots.
Dave,
Arkansas.
what do you got? Arkansas. Damn, you know everything. 2013, no first-round pick that year. Jamie.
Well, they had one. The Vikings traded it to pick Cordero Patterson.
Right.
The Patriots wound up getting like Jamie Collins, Logan Ryan, LeGarrette Blount, and someone else out of all the picks. It was like just a completely insane draft trade steal for the Patriots.
Great. Yeah, incredible haul. Like you said, they traded that first round and moved back. They got Jamie Collins, who was very, very good for them. So good, they changed one of the rules in the NFL because of him. And then, of course, Aaron Dobson.
Drops him.
One of the great what-ifs.
Yep.
Drops him. I forgot about that nickname. I remember I wanted him to succeed so badly.
It was Aaron Dropson and Kembrell Dropkins. It was
Kembrell Tompkins, who is currently, I believe, was arrested on a identity fraud charge.
Yeah.
Always remember him for that catch against the Saints, though. Great play.
It was weird though too because Dobson had a really good rookie year.
Yeah.
He like
both those guys did.
He had one of the most successful rookie years for any Patriots wideout, which I mean obviously doesn't say that much, but he had like a few catches where he broke free and like the physical skills were there, but he just for whatever reason it never clicked.
Never clicked after that. No.
You know who it did click for though? Josh Boyce.
Yeah,
it's 112 yards.
It's pretty wild to take 2 wide receivers that high and not hit on either one of them.
That's pretty hard to do.
I know.
Brutal. I forgot. Did I mention Jerron Harmon? Because he also got picked that year in the 3rd round. They took Ryan and Harmon 8 picks apart.
I still remember too when they took Harmon, there was no footage or anything of him because he like wasn't on draft boards.
That's very Belichick. And then in the 7th round, they took Michael Buchanan and Steve Beauharnais. I remember the name Steve Beauharnais. He must have been like a special teamer or something.
It's a Rutgers guy, barely played.
Yeah. Well, we're about to get into an eclectic 2014. The 1st round pick that year, Dominique Easley.
Yeah.
I believe there were injury problems with him from the start. Everybody knew it.
Both knees. Yeah.
It's not great. Both knees being an issue for a defensive tackle, probably not a good idea.
No, I know. That was another one where it was like they thought they'd be getting a top 10 pick at 29 overall or whatever it was, and then just didn't work out. Well, oddly, Dominique Easley converted over to like outside linebacker for the Rams later in his career.
No, this is one of those many years where I really wanted the Patriots to take a quarterback, i.e. Teddy Bridgewater. I liked him.
Yeah.
Fortunate that he had that very severe injury and really has never been the same since.
No.
Derek Carr was taken, I think, 5 or 6 picks later as well.
Yeah.
Not a great. I mean, they could have taken Bradley Roby, and that might have been a good player to get. Jimmy Ward wasn't bad. Not great. Although Kyle Van Noy was taken 11 picks later, ended up here anyway.
No, interesting.
Garoppolo was that year in the 2nd round.
Yep.
I think we know about him. He's familiar with this. Brian Stork, James White, and Cameron Fleming, all 4th rounders that year.
Brian Stork was very anti-media when he was in New England.
Really?
Gave some of the worst quotes ever. I once asked him, I think it was 12 questions in 55 seconds or something like that. And it was like very clear that he was like just going to give 1-word answers to everything. And it was after the game that he played left tackle. Like there was some reason that he had to play left or right tackle or something like that. And he had played tight end in high school. So like I was running out of things to even ask him. So I was asking about playing tackle, all this stuff. And I was like, you played tight end in high school. Do you ever miss that? And his answer was a couple times. I just like thinking about these 2 times that Brian Stork missed playing tight end. He was like, yeah, on April 13th, 2012, I really missed playing tight end. And he was aggressively bad with the media.
He was fine that year. He was the year they beat the Seahawks. He was like that was the year with DeGuglielmo, and he was fine. I mean, he was serviceable, but It really didn't really work out from there.
Concussion issues, and he was a Jimmy guy, whereas David Andrews was a Brady guy.
Well, there you go, right there.
In 2014, you didn't want to be a Jimmy guy; you wanted to be a Brady guy.
You're out of town, baby. Yeah. You're not sticking around for that. Yeah. I mean, James White, we really don't have to even talk about. I mean, everybody knows that James White is one of the steals of the past 10 years for the Patriots. Guy's been unbelievable. Cameron Fleming is an interesting guy.
Good depth piece for a while.
Stuck around for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, long time. Whatever a John Jalapio is, he was like
out of the NFL and played in like an arena league or something for a few years. Now he's back with the Giants or something. Weird career for Jalapio.
Hey, Joe Judge loves his Ron Jalapio.
Yeah.
Zach Moore, Jamie Thomas, and Jeremy Gallen were also picked that year.
Jeremy Tiny Gallen.
Yeah,
he was like 5'7". Yeah.
Yeah. And Zach Moore was from like Concordia. He was like a Division III player.
Yep.
He
was a nice guy.
Belichick trying to hit on these random guys.
Zach Moore actually made it too. He played in Arizona for a while, I think.
Yeah.
I think he bounced around.
I remember where I was when the Patriots made this pick. Malcolm Brown in 2015 out of Texas, the defensive tackle, didn't really last here too long. Players picked after him. It's not really that great of a crew anyway. I mean, Landon Collins was taken next. That might have been a misfire because he's a pretty good player. It's pretty slim pickings after that. I was one of those people who loved Devin Funchess. Why?
Yeah.
Jalen Collins is a good player. Quincy Tart. Like, there are some good players, but no one who stands out to you, like, passing on DeAndre Hopkins or something like that.
No, Malcolm Brown was like he won, 2 or 3 Super Bowls for the Patriots as a starter, so not bad. Two Super Bowls. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
2016 and 18. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Jordan Richards.
Not good.
No.
That one's bad.
I'm looking at obviously looking at Pro Football Reference. So when I hear Dave's visceral reaction to that, pretty good. Speaking of not good, Geno Grissom.
Belichick was really excited about that pick too. He was like jazzed up on draft night, but he should have been more excited about the next pick.
Yes, that'd be Trey Flowers, 4th rounder who has had 30 sacks in his NFL career now, and was indispensable for the Patriots for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I forget who it was. I think it was like either Kuiper or McShape. Both of them, I think, had pointed out how NFL ready he was and how he's going to dominate. And it was like a very, very late time to pick him because he was a 4th rounder. They thought he could have gone way higher. And
then he basically redshirted his first season and then really broke out in, 2016? Yeah.
Yeah, in his second year, I think he got hurt a few games in, and they had to shelve him for the season too.
Right.
So I think he only ended up playing like 2 out of the 4 years.
Yeah.
You guys doing me a great favor by killing time because I was looking for a piece of trivia that I'll address it when we get to the next player. Trey Jackson and Shaq Mason taken in the 4th round. Also, a tale of 2 successes or 2 different levels of success.
I was just going to say that it's interesting that they doubled up in 4 straight picks and that it was the second pick on each one of them that hit instead of the first pick.
True.
Yeah.
Depending on how you evaluate Geno Grissom and Trey Jackson. I mean, I think they're studs. Shaq Mason, Dave, I'll let you opine on Shaq Mason for a moment. I know you're like his biggest fan.
I love Shaq Mason, but I mean, the question with him was always like Jackson was looked at as more of the pro-ready guy coming out of Florida State, and Mason was the guy that was super raw because they never passed. He did triple option. And Mason ended up being like the guy that picked up pass blocking really, really fast, and Jackson was not really very versatile at all. Like he could really only play one guard spot.
It's weird when they go. Sometimes the Patriots go rogue and draft these like really unathletic offensive linemen, and it never really seems to go that well for them. And that was the case with Trey Jackson. He was like an awful athlete at the combine. Shaq Mason was a great athlete at his pro day, and Shaq Mason wound up being good. So I don't know like what the type is when they draft those unathletic guys, but it never really seems to go that well for them.
Yeah, it was bizarre because Jackson was, like you said, was awful on his combine numbers.
Yeah,
and
really bad.
he had knee issues. I think he had like tendonitis in his knee, or he had something going on with his knee. And he wasn't like, his athleticism was really a question for like pulling, which is 9% of the offense regardless.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's what they asked them to do. So yeah.
What else we got here on the 2015 side? We got Joe Cardona, great long snapper, fantastic
legend.
Everyone mocked that because he went to Navy and they needed a long snapper.
Hey, he's been a fixture for them. 3-time Super Bowl champion. I think
2-time.
2-time. No, sorry, 2015. So 2-time. Still invaluable.
Not bad.
Matthew Wells and everybody's favorite Patriots tight end, AJ Derby.
Matthew Wells legally blind in one eye.
Yeah.
Wow, really?
And then they traded him like 5 weeks later. So I'm actually like curious to know if they must have known that, right? They must have known he was blind in one eye.
I feel like they had to. I feel like
it is also kind of weird that then they traded him 5 weeks later. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. I'm sorry, Dave, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, the crazy thing about Derby, especially, not like Wells, I think was interesting because he was a coverage guy. He was looked at as like really athletic, but Derby, like that they got anything of value for him was just kind of really unique. I mean, he was a QB in college for a little bit, and he ended up getting they got a late round pick for him when he really didn't do anything.
No, yeah, that was a bad trade by the Broncos.
Yeah, they gave up an asset for literally nothing.
Yeah.
And then Darryl Roberts and Xavier Dixon, who, that's really all I got for that.
Dixon, another very bad athlete who did absolutely nothing.
He's an Alabama guy, though. So,
yep.
Speaking of Alabama guys, Cyrus Jones.
Yeah,
that's really all we got for that one. Might as well. They gave him chances. He just failed in every time. Better pick though would be Joe Thuney.
One of the best.
Oh yeah, incredible. And they took 2 guys out of NC State within 13 picks of each other.
Yeah,
fascinating. Obviously, Jacoby Brissett being the other. He of the shutout to the Bills and getting into a fight with, I forget who on the sideline, but it was him and Malcolm Mitchell. And they got like a fight before the game with somebody.
Forgot about that. I just to like get into quarterbacks for a second here too. The Patriots like type at quarterback is so weird when you look at what Brady was for so many years. Like none of them have a very high completion percentage in college. None of them are known as being that accurate. Like none of them are overly mobile. It's like their type over the last 10 years for quarterbacks has been like, just kind of blah. Like, yeah, they're pretty good. Otherwise, like, I don't know. I don't know like what it is with these quarterbacks that they say that's our guy, Jacoby Brissett. Like, obviously he's gone on to have a pretty good NFL career. So it was a decent pick. But when they took him, I was like, okay, weird, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a serviceable backup, and I mean, he was fine in Indianapolis the year that he played. But I mean, he's been a decent quarterback. He was very helpful when Garoppolo was out and Brady was suspended, and they shut out Houston, and then they lost to Buffalo because they just couldn't score because his hand was shattered and whatever it was. But yeah, I mean, Jacoby Brissett, friend of the podcast, except he's really not. But he's not listening, so who cares? Vincent Valentine.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was a weird one because he was hurt like the whole time he was here, like with back, knee. I mean, he was good. He was a decent player too, though. I feel like
he was another one who was projected as like a 7th rounder, and they took him in the 3rd. It was like they went totally off the board with that one.
They went in that situation.
Yeah.
I think maybe if they do that, you get circulated on Twitter like every 5 hours is the whole if you could give one player a career of full health with with no injuries and see what would happen. I think Malcolm Mitchell would be on my short list
for sure. He was a hit before he got hurt, but yeah.
I feel like wasn't that the issue with him in college why he slipped? Like people didn't know about his knees.
Yeah, I think he was another one with like both knees, and Georgia, I think, or some NFL teams viewed him as a cornerback because they were concerned about his injuries, which I don't know like why that would make it better for him to play cornerback on bad knees rather than wide receiver, maybe like a little bit less cutting. But I know that when he was coming out of Georgia, some teams viewed him as a cornerback, weirdly enough.
That's strange because he was super productive at Georgia.
Yeah. I think they were just so concerned about the injuries.
Makes sense. I mean, it's not a hot take to say they don't beat the Falcons without him.
Right. Yeah,
He had that great sliding first down catch. 6 rounders. We have Kamu Grugier Hill. I don't know. I'm definitely not pronouncing that correctly. Landon Roberts and Ted Karras. The latter two have actually developed into decent NFL players. I'm not sure what's come of Grugier Hill.
He's been pretty good. He got signed by someone this offseason. He's been like a coverage / special teams linebacker.
He's pretty athletic for a linebacker. He's bounced around though. He was with Philly. I forget where he is now, but he definitely signed with someone. I know, like you said.
And then don't forget 7th round wonder out of Arizona State, Devin Lucien.
I was always ready for that breakout and just never came.
That's for sure.
He looked pretty good in practice a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I can get the whole 2017 draft in one breath. Derek Rivers, Antonio Garcia, Dietrich Wise Jr., and Connor McDermott.
Wise worked out. Otherwise,
and McDermott got cut and claimed by the Bills.
Yeah.
I remember Derek Rivers. He got hurt before he even played his first game? Is that right?
Yes, he tore his ACL in a joint practice with like the Saints or Texans or something. But then that was also the year that they traded for Cooks.
Right.
They moved back 8 spots for Ely. They
traded Tony Ely trade, and then they cut him.
Right. Traded for Dwayne Allen that offseason too. Yeah. Weird year.
Season. But Garcia, I feel like he had health issues, didn't he?
He had, I think it was like blood clots or something. Yeah.
He was one of those guys you really never get a chance to see. The 2018 draft, the for some reason much maligned 2018 draft. Isaiah Wynn and Sony Michel in the first round. I am a Sony Michel truther. I think that this dude has never gotten an easy break from fans. I think remember he was very good in that postseason when they beat the Rams. And he's had injury problems, but I know what you want him to do. I mean, he has injury problems, sure. Isaiah Wynn also has many injury problems. I thought they traded him, honestly. I forgot that he's still on the roster. But nothing against him. I'm just saying I forgot they didn't trade him. Yeah.
I think like someone on the radio was speculating that they were going to trade him or something a few months ago. But yeah, no, he's still there.
Here's a fun fact for you, Doug. Duke Dawson picked 56th overall. The Patriots moved up.
Yeah.
Do you know who was picked with the picks the Patriots traded to move up for Duke Dawson?
Oh God, who did they trade with? At least give me that.
They traded with the Buccaneers.
Oh, Chris Godwin, right?
Nope. They drafted Carlton Davis and Jordan Whitehead.
Oh wow.
Who are both better at what they do than Duke Dawson was.
Yeah, Duke Dawson was recruited to Florida with J.C. Jackson, who was signed in that same draft class. And yeah, J.C. Jackson's gone on to have a much better NFL career.
Yeah, Duke Dawson, was he have injury problems? Just never got in the field? I feel like he just never played.
He did have injury problems in his rookie season, and then he was traded before his second season. So basically just like never even played for the Patriots.
And I'm sure Belichick hated the fact that they took almost 100 picks off after this because it up for Duke Dawson.
Yeah.
Juwan Bentley, Christian Sam, Braxton Berrios, Danny Etling, Keon Cross, and Ryan Izzo. Whole lot of bad, except for maybe Bentley. But
yeah, I mean, like if you're as far as like 5th to 7th round picks, I'd say that just the fact that like Bentley, Berrios, Cross, and Izzo are still in the NFL is like good enough, I'd say.
Danny Etling. There was no.
Etling might still be in the NFL too, for all I know.
According to this, I don't think he's still in the league. But yeah, he got traded or he released and signed by the Falcons, and they tried to like convert him into a wide receiver.
He's with the Seahawks for a while. Might still, yeah.
There was no other. I mean, you looked at that because that was one of those years you thought they might take a quarterback, and they did. To be fair, 2019. Oh boy, strap in. N'Keal Harry. Doug, is there still hope for N'Keal Harry?
I would not say that I personally.
The initial response really says it all.
I like he's got to be firmly number 4 on the depth chart at this point, behind Aguilar, Bourne, and Myers, and like you probably want a better player in there as well. So yeah, I'd say that if he winds up breaking out, it would be a pretty major surprise.
Dave, still hope for N'Keal Harry?
I don't know. I mean, I think he could still break out, but it just won't be here. I just don't see
Yeah, I
him
could see
fitting
that.
here. I think
Right.
I think both parties deserve to just go their separate ways. We can get like a 4th or a 5th rounder. I know it's like selling low on him, but I just don't see any way his value improves the next year or two.
I don't think they use him right, but I'm not sure if they used him correctly, if it would work. Like, it's just this like weird paradox with him. And yeah, I don't know. It's tough.
How do we feel about Joanne Williams?
It's another one where if he breaks out, it'll be a surprise. Like, I was talking to my fellow NESN.com Patriots beat reporter, Zach Cox, today about the cornerback position. And if Gilmore and Jackson are gone after next season, I was saying like, yeah, well, at least you still have Jalen Mills and Jonathan Jones. And then you would basically just have to add like another starter. And I basically discounted the idea of Joanne Williams really even being in that mix. I feel like if it was going to click for him, it would have happened last year. There was times when they needed another cornerback, and it seemed like they were more willing to use Miles Bryant during those times than Joanne Williams, which was not a particularly good sign.
Pretty solid 3rd round for the most part. Chase Winovich, Damian Harris, and Yadni Kajust, whose name I hear quite a bit, even though I don't think he's even played in the league.
No, he's not.
But Winovich and Harris hits for sure.
Good picks, yep.
Yeah. Winovich, my girlfriend's a big fan of Winovich. Love the hair.
Nice.
I actually have a question too. I just thought of this, Doug. There's a lot of like people, and I'm not sure how much I believe this, but there's a lot of people that think Belichick's kind of gone rogue and kind of like gone on his own last year, like the last 5 or so years, like kind of drafting on his own thoughts rather than scout some of the time. And now supposedly like this year he's listening to people. Part 1 is, do you believe that? But part 2 is, do you think part of it is also he's trying to assemble like a line of people like ready to take command when he eventually steps down?
I think that he does go rogue. Like I that was a popular one with Jamie Collins, is that like he just decided to take Jamie Collins. I think that probably happened with N'Keal Harry as well, where that was a guy that he really liked. I definitely believe that. I don't really know where it's coming from that things are like different this year or whatever.
Yeah.
They've got a different power structure because Casario's gone. Now they've got Ziegler, Wolf, and Matt Groh in there, but I don't know how that would necessarily like shake things up. I don't know if Elliot Wolf is, I don't know, more persuasive than Nick Caserio was or whatever it is. So I don't know. I'd say that I'll see if that's the case. I will say that Belichick's been a little bit less active on like the pro day circuit this year than he has been in years past. So maybe he is leaning on Ziegler and Groh and Wolf. And then I guess Matt Patricia as well, more than he did in the past. So I don't know. We'll see. But I don't know how we'd be able to tell if the picks this year are scout picks rather than Belichick picks. I guess like one way to tell is if they don't take some random 7th rounder in the 3rd round this year or something like that. Now,
it's probably a good indicator, a good barometer. Yeah. So the rest of that draft was Froholt, Stidham, Cowart, Bailey, and Webster. The 2 names that stick out. Yeah, for real. I said Froholt because I didn't want to bother butchering his first name.
Yelda.
Yeah, see, exactly. That wouldn't be impressive. So it's a good thing I skipped it. Stidham, I've given up on since they drafted him. I've never been a fan. I've never offered very much. Even last year when there was like, Cam was playing really poorly at times, and they played Hoyer before they played Stidham sometimes. So I mean, that just really tells me how much they value him.
I'm on the fence on how they feel about Stidham because like I sort of buy into the conspiracy theory that Belichick didn't want to throw him out there to start with the weapons that they had last year. But I also don't think that they're going to be willing to go into the season this year with him as like the only backup option. I think that they need some sort of quarterback of the future. So I don't know. I feel like they still have like some sort of hope for him, but we'll actually see if that comes to fruition.
And then the best Patriots draft pick since Tom Brady, Jake Bailey.
Yes, for sure.
And then 2020, obviously tough to assess it right now, but there's some good players that come out. Like they took Kyle Duggar and Josh Uche, who are obviously, I think, pretty good players. Anthony Jennings and Devin Asiasi and Dalton Keene. I think it's safe to say that those last 2 didn't work out because they took the 2 highest tight ends off the market.
Yeah. They paid like $100 million for tight ends.
The Justin Warwasser pick aged about as well as warm milk.
Yes.
That took about a day. We'll circle back to the best pick probably of the draft. Justin Herring, Cash Maluya, and Dustin Woodard.
Saran was decent last year in spot duty. I think he's kind of a swing tackle of the future.
And then probably the steal of the 2020 draft was Michael Onwenu.
Yeah, he was fantastic. And he gives them the flexibility to play guard or tackle after this season. Like, you assume he's going to play left guard this season, but heading into next year, they can basically take a guard or a tackle and then move on Onwenu wherever he has to play, which is nice for them.
So before we let you go, Doug, we'll do a quick first-round mock draft here. We'll go to the old PFF machine. I'll share it with you fellas so you guys can see what we're working with here. And we are the GMs here, folks. I mean, we're the ones making the choices. We'll do a no trade one, so we're on the clock here
for sure.
I'm not a big college football guy, but Dave, I've heard this Trevor Lawrence fella is a lock.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would go long snapper here, but I hear Trevor Lawrence is probably the pick, so we'll go with Trevor Lawrence.
I don't even think you could filter long snapper up here.
I don't know if long snappers are even in there. Yeah, I don't think so.
But Trevor Lawrence is a lock for number one. Number two, I feel like Zach Wilson is. It's been Lawrence Wilson for what, like a month now?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. All right, so the Niners. What do we realistically think they're going to do here?
I lean towards Mac Jones. If it's not Jones, then I think it would probably be Lance.
Let's go crazy. I think Dave, want to go Mac Jones? Let's go crazy here.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Go crazy.
Let's see how far down we can push Fields in case
PFF is going to fail us out of the draft immediately. Do you think the Falcons prefer Fields or Trey Lance?
Fields because he's the better player. You think it's going to be Pitts?
Yeah,
Dave's
that.
It's true.
Because I think the one thing that sold me on it is to push Matt Ryan's money into next year. He's going to be like so expensive to move on from either this year or next.
Arthur Smith also likes Matt Ryan
a lot.
Yeah, and it's also hard to justify like spending a top 5 pick on a QB and then saying, "Oh, he's not going to play for 3 years." That's just to me, it just doesn't seem realistic.
So we want to give him Kyle Pitts. What do we think?
I'd say Pitts.
All right. Do we like Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell going 5th?
I think probably Sewell. They need so much help on the offensive line. Give them that big 330-pounder.
Dave, I know you're a big Jamar Chase guy.
I am, but I mean, I don't think you can go wrong. I think Cincinnati's sitting pretty. I think they're.
I mean, you could put anything on this list for needs, right. But I mean, I think for me, Penei Sewell's got to be the pick just because look what happened to your prized possession last year. Like, not protecting him is why he got hurt. Dolphins.
Chase, I think.
I feel like it's got to be Chase here. That's what an unbelievable embarrassment of riches for the Dolphins.
I know, seriously.
The Lions. For some reason, I feel like Jalen Waddle screams Lions to me.
Or would they go quarterback?
That would be interesting. I mean, I don't know about you, but they have the quarterback of the future already in Jared Goff.
Who's the backup that they signed? Tim Boyle from the Packers.
I don't know. They don't still have David Blau, whatever his name was.
No, I think they brought in Boyle.
I remember I signed him to start one of my fantasy games one week, and I had that feeling like I swallowed a cigar or something. It was like the worst. I was like, I can't believe I'm starting this guy, and sure enough, he was terrible. So what do we think here? They need, if you see the needs here, they need pretty much literally everything. Yeah, I mean, they could take a quarterback. They could. Why not? They trade Lance or Justin Fields.
I kind of think.
The only thing that sucks is that if they do take one of these quarterbacks, the other one's going to go to Denver, and the Patriots don't get him.
I'll let you guys decide on that then.
Oh man,
I personally don't think they have so much money tied into Goff now from trading him. I know a lot of the dead money is accelerated to the Rams, but I just think they have so many other needs that to take a QB now would be kind of short-sighted.
So Jalen Waddle.
I think it makes the most sense. Obviously, we're not doing this, but it makes the most sense for them to trade down since they do need probably a defender more than another wide receiver. But they also don't have any wide receivers beyond Kenny Golladay. So if you pair Kenny Golladay with, or no, they don't have Golladay anymore. What am I talking about? They have no wide receiver. Giants. Yeah. So Jalen Waddle.
That being said, if this is
or Devontae Smith.
If this is the scenario, the Lions should be getting thousands of phone calls. If they're Fields and Lance are still on the board at number 7, they should be trading back. You're right. I mean, but what do you think, Dave? I'll throw it to you.
I think you take I personally like Waddle over Smith.
Okay. Well, there you go. Speaking of a team that could sneaky take a quarterback, the Panthers.
It's another one where I feel like they have to wait a year now. Like, I don't think you can trade a second-round pick for
That's true.
Darnold and then turn around. So I think that they trade this pick. I think they trade down either with the Patriots or I don't know who else, who's below the Patriots that need a quarterback, like the Saints or whatever it is. I think that they wind up trading this pick. But if they stay put, they do have a lot of needs.
Yeah. If they stay put, I mean, I feel like Devonta Smith is kind of a lock if they stay put.
Right.
Like I said, I think you bring up a good point. If they do take that year with Sam Darnold, I feel like giving him Devonta Smith certainly couldn't hurt.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could really justify them taking pretty much any position. Their roster is not great.
No, it is not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would assume they would trade down, but in a no trade scenario, I would take probably Devonta Smith.
All right. I feel like Trey Lance has Broncos written all over him. I feel like Elway loves a quarterback like Trey Lance.
Yeah, I could see that. I think it. Yeah.
And by
Lance.
And by that I mean a promising prospect he can ruin.
The one thing about this draft is it's kind of interesting how many spots that QB is like not really an option. Like when you think about it realistically, which doesn't always mean that that's going to happen. But like Carolina just traded a second for Darnold. The Lions really just have so many other needs. The Bengals don't need one. Like the Dolphins aren't going to take one with Tua. It's just like there's a lot of you could see where there's a scenario where QBs fall if teams don't meet the asking price.
For sure.
All right, Trey Lance to the Broncos.
Trey Lance is taller, so I'd go with Lance in that situation.
Exactly. I feel like the Cowboys would take Surtain here.
Yeah, I think so. I think that makes sense.
He's probably the best defensive player on the board.
I'm surprised how high Barmore is on this list.
Yeah, he was. Dave, we did this like last week or the week before. He was not this high.
I forget who it was. Someone had said that a lot of teams like Barmore. I don't know if that was like he dominated in the playoffs. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but
late bloomer.
All right, the Giants. I feel like the Giants would take Rashawn Slater here.
Yeah, need a tackle. He could play tackle or guard, so that helps too.
They need that.
The one thing I saw today on Twitter, I'm sure you guys saw it too, but Dave Gettleman has never traded down at any point in any draft as a GM. Like
that's so absurd.
That's so ridiculous.
That is insane.
I mean, yeah, that is. I mean, I am probably how big of a fan I am of Sony Michel. I'm the opposite for Daniel Jones. I think he is the fact that this is his last shot. There's no possible way you can justify having him as your quarterback next year if he sucks again, because they've made everything around him much better.
Do you know what's kind of fun? At last year's Super Bowl, so the Super Bowl that was in Miami, I was saying that the Giants should be in on Tom Brady. Like out of all the teams that needed a quarterback and where Brady would want to play and all those things, I was like, why not the Giants? And everyone was like thinking it was absurd or something because they had Daniel Jones. But I think last year kind of proved that it probably would have been a pretty good idea to sign Tom Brady if they could. Obviously, the offensive line was a mess, all those things. But you can fix a team pretty easily in the NFL these days.
For sure. The Eagles are up. They need a quarterback, a wide receiver, a linebacker, a cornerback, pretty much every major position.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the worst case scenario for the Eagles. Like they don't really get any of the guys they probably wanted.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they could. I mean, I know, Doug, you said you feel like Parsons will fall further than where he would go, but at this point, what do you take J.C. Horn maybe?
Maybe who's a little further down.
We have Newsome, Vera Tucker.
Farley's a guy I like.
Could be Kwity Paye. He's going to be the first edge defender taken. He might wind up being the first defender taken. So Kwity Paye could be a pick here, but I don't know how much they need a defensive end. And maybe he winds up going to the Vikings. But yeah, J.C. Horn could be Parsons.
I feel like I know, Davis, from doing these PFF mock drafts together, they hate when you take J.C. Horn this high, but I feel like we have to.
Yeah, I mean, Horn to me is probably the most likely pick if they're taking a corner.
I covered Kwity Paye in high school.
He's a Rhode Island guy, right?
Down here in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
I have never covered a more dominant player. When I was a player for a few years, he was the most dominant offensive and defensive player every time he stepped on the field.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
He was incredible. All right, so the Chargers are up. They need a tackle, a guard, a cornerback. I feel like maybe Darisaw could go here.
Yeah.
Or Darisaw or Newsome. I mean, Newsome might be a little bit of a reach, but
I think you got to get the tackle to protect Herbert. You finally got a QB.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, Christian Darisaw it is. All right, the Vikings are in an interesting situation. I think, Dave, every time we've done a mock draft, we've sent Morig to the Titans. I feel like Morig or Kwity Paye would be a good pick.
I think Kwity Paye probably here.
That'd be great. I'd love to see him in that Viking purple. He looks
More
sick.
importantly, this draft would be amazing because Justin Fields is still on the board.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't really need to discuss who the Patriots are taking here. I mean, they're obviously going to take if the NFL allows Justin Fields to fall to the Patriots. I mean, good luck to the rest of everybody else. But this isn't even a judgment call. I mean,
I will say that, take Justin Fields if he's there. Absolutely take him. The realistic picks for the Patriots at 15, will be Elijah Vera Tucker and Jalen Phillips. Those would be the two guys that I think are the most realistic picks at 15 for them.
That's probably true. I mean, this is a no trade scenario, so it won't work out for them. But I think either of those picks would be good. I do like Jalen Phillips down here, and then you've got
Vera Tucker's like kind of similar to Wynn, where you could play guard or tackle, a little bit undersized, but I think they like him.
I feel like Barmore to the Cardinals is the pick here.
Yeah.
I think
actually, that just jogged my memory. Doug, what do you think that the odds are that they pick up the 5th-year option on Wynn?
I think it's relatively high. I know it's kind of pricey, but I think that you at least have to give him a shot. Like, he's been good. It's not like he's been a bad player. He's just been injury prone. So I think you pick it up for Wynn. You don't pick it up for Michelle because that's a little bit too pricey. But I don't know. I just don't think you can let a tackle go and then suddenly need 2 tackles heading into next season, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. But
yeah,
I mean, he's been really, really good when he's on the field. He just is always hurt.
Yeah. How many games did he miss last year? Like 4 or something?
I think he missed 4, and then obviously he had the Achilles the year before.
Right. Oh, he missed 6 games last year. He's only played 18 games out of a possible 48.
And you can see the natural ability when he's on the field. Like he's
good.
That guys can't see. Like he covers like stunts without even knowing what's happening. It's just natural.
Right.
So the Raiders need pretty much everything that you need important in the secondary or on the offensive line. They could take Vera Tucker. They could take Morig. They could take Newton.
This is probably Vera Tucker.
Mm.
They completely trashed their whole offensive line this year.
Yeah,
and traded everybody, so I would take a lineman.
Yeah.
The Dolphins are back on the clock.
Maybe they take a chance on Parsons. I don't know. They lost Van Noy. I don't know if they want Elandon Roberts starting. I don't know who else they have there, but yeah, that might be where Parsons comes off.
That would be some dumb luck getting Jamar Chase and Micah Parsons in the same first round. Damn. I think I'll take a chance on it, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. Parsons at 18, I think the talent is pretty valuable, especially with a team that has multiple first-round picks. I think you minimize the risk there.
For sure.
Washington, they need a wide receiver, linebacker. I feel like Bateman or Owusu would be good here. Maybe fall a little bit more down the board for Elijah Moore. Not sure what you guys are thinking.
Yeah. I feel like Bateman's high on this list at 17. I feel like Elijah Moore's kind of high too.
I feel like from what I've read about Bateman and Moore, they're like late first, early second kind of guys.
Right. Who's down a little bit further on this?
Terrace Marshall I've seen going higher.
Yeah. Who's like a little bit lower?
Rondale.
Ojulari's interesting, but they might not need an edge. Yeah. Maybe Bateman.
What do you think, Dave?
Bateman,
no, maybe Owusu Koromoa.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think they might go line here.
Yeah, I think he's a good player. So
sure.
I think 19 makes sense.
The Bears need everything. What do they want?
I mean, they want a QB, but there's none left.
And I don't think they're gonna be able to trade up for anywhere near what they want. So
Maybe Newsome or maybe Farley here. I know he's got the injury issues, but
Yeah. I mean,
maybe Farley.
I wouldn't mind Farley here. I think they could. I know a lot of people are lower on him because of the injuries, but I think taking him here is perfectly appropriate. Dave?
Yeah.
Farley, I like a lot.
All right. To the Bears he goes. Indianapolis.
I think this is Phillips at this point, maybe.
They do need an edge defender.
Yeah.
That would be smart. I mean, it is the Colts, so I mean they do draft relatively.
They draft well, yeah.
So yeah, Phillips is good for me.
Yeah, Phillips is good. But one thing I was curious too about is it seems like a lot of people are starting to pick up steam with Terrace Marshall. It seems like he's kind of rocketing up the boards with his speed and everything. So
yeah.
I'm curious to see where he goes.
Could be the Titans. They need a wide receiver after losing Corey Davis.
Could be the Titans. And it could be the Titan. Could be him. Could be Moore. Could be Bateman. What do we want here?
What they lose? They lost like a big possession receiver. That's like kind of Bateman, but it could also be Marshall. Marshall's a big receiver. I go with either one here.
I like Marshall. Dave?
I like Marshall.
All right. Line him up opposite A.J. Brown. Watch him go. The Jets are back on the clock.
Is this who's the best offensive lineman available at this point?
Walker Little,
and then who's below him?
Evan Jenkins, Dylan Radins.
Tevin Jenkins is going to be pretty good, I think.
Yeah. I would probably go Jenkins or Ojulari here.
Dave, I'll go with Tevin Jenkins. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, Jenkins sounds good.
All right. Pittsburgh's on the clock. They need a quarterback. They will not get one. They also need offensive line help. They could go Walker Little here. They could do a Steelers thing and just pick a defensive player.
Yeah.
The one thing you know about them is you trust them to find a receiver in like the 4th round.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't have to worry about it in the first round.
You know they don't need that. Yeah.
No.
Safety's kind of interesting here. Maybe Zaven Collins. I don't know where he is on this list.
He is right there, 36th.
He's kind of a Steelers type linebacker, but I don't know if they really need that much linebacker help. Yeah.
I feel like they might.
What about Najee Harris?
That is a Steelers guy. Oh,
where's Harris?
Way down there. He can't be this low. No, we must have missed him. We must have missed him. He can't be that low.
I don't think he's. Well, I can just look him up.
Yeah, just look him up by running back.
65th.
Oh,
wow.
He's way down there.
Below Javonte Williams. He's right in line with Travis Etienne.
I kind of think that's who they wind up taking, but we could take someone higher.
He's such a Steelers pick, though.
Yeah.
He runs and everything. He's such a Steelers guy.
Yeah, I know. Dave, I'll toss it to you, Dave. What do you think?
I think we go Harris. I think he's the prototypical Steelers back.
You think they're going to take him in the first round?
Yeah, I do.
All right. Well, the PFF's going to hate it, Dave, but we'll do it.
They already hate us, though. Fields went 15th.
For me, I feel like this is either Morrig or Walker Little because they do need a safety.
Yeah. Who are the Jaguars wide receivers?
They've
got Shark.
Shenault, Shark.
Keelan
Cole left.
Oh,
right?
they got Marvin Jones and Shenault. So yeah, they're fine at wide receiver.
Oh, that's right. They have Marvin Jones. I forgot he was in there.
Yeah.
That was such a good value signing.
Yeah. Yeah. So probably Morrig here for them.
I love Marvin Jones.
Yeah, I love him too.
Never fumbled in his career.
I was at that 2012 Senior Bowl and he was nasty there.
Where's he from again? What school?
Cal.
Right. The Golden Bears. So we want to go Morrig here?
He was on the same team as Keenan Allen, and Keenan Allen's like half brother was their quarterback. So Marvin Jones basically like never got targeted.
Keenan Allen was such a steal. Like I don't know how he slept so
second
far.
round. Well, Marvin Jones was too. Marvin Jones was a 5th round pick.
Yeah, and I believe weren't the Patriots interested in him the first time he was a free agent, and he just got too expensive.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do love Marvin Jones.
Yeah.
Browns.
Maybe
Jason Owe here.
Maybe Ojulari.
Yeah, I was gonna say Ojulari.
I love Ojulari.
Yeah.
Now he's a Brown, lining up with Myles Garrett. The Ravens. Maybe Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore.
I would go with Kadarius Toney here. I know he's got the off-field issues, but that guy's electric.
Not too much of a reach.
They need some playmakers so bad.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. The Saints also need a wide receiver, coincidentally.
I feel like Bateman feels like a Saint.
Yeah.
All right, fine by me. Speaking of need a wide receiver, the Packers also apparently need a wide receiver. They also need a cornerback. They could take Newsome.
I know Moore seems high on there, but I also feel like they could use that next Randall Cobb in their offense.
And do they take a receiver to kind of appease Aaron Rodgers after last year?
I think they should. Yeah.
Like they
Moore's
pissed him
not
off last year.
That's true. So Elijah Moore is the one we're going with?
I think so, yeah.
All right. Out of Ole Miss. The Bills. They need a cornerback. They need a edge defender, and they need a defensive interior. So, I mean, you got Newsome.
Samuel here sounds really good.
I'd go Newsome or Samuel here, I think.
That'd be such a killer, Samuel going to the Bills.
Newsome's higher, so we could go with Newsome.
Yeah. Chiefs. Walker Little, maybe?
I feel like Walker Little's really high on this list. Maybe I'm not looking at the right lists, but because like the list that I have has Walker Little as the 94th overall, like ranked 94th.
PFF does have the kind of different grading system. They grade them based on not necessarily like the overall
players. Who are the best guards available? I'm just curious.
Let's give it a look-see. Best guards. Why?
IOL. It's under IOL.
Oh, IOL. Thanks. You got Landon Dickerson. You got Quinn. You got Wyatt Davis.
Wyatt Davis looks like the best actual true guard right now.
Yeah, maybe go to tackle too for a second.
Sure. Radden, Cosme.
See, I think Leatherwood is like widely viewed as the better tackle, but if we want to get a better grade, then we could go with Walker Little or Radden.
I've spent too much time trying to get good grades from PFF. I'd like to be a bad boy. And then finally, you have the reigning champion Buccaneers. I feel like Tom Brady would love to play with Asante Samuel's kid, even though they don't need a cornerback.
It's true.
Need defensive. I mean, all their needs are not. I don't know. I mean, I feel like Zaven Collins might be a good pick here.
Yeah, Collins would be a good value, I think.
What do you think, Dave?
I like Collins. Yeah,
let's do it.
Collins being on the board this late is.
Let's see what we get for our grade. All right, so they love the first 4 picks.
Wow, nailed them.
Jamar Chase, they liked. Jalen Waddle, they liked. Good A for Devonta Smith. A+, A+. That's a really high grade for J.C. Horn. They usually hate when you take J.C.
That was like 2 weeks ago, though.
We took J.C. Horn number 10, I think, after Sertan was already taken, and they gave us like a D. They hated it. Darrisaw and Kwity Paye. Obviously, Justin Fields is an A+ here. Barmore, B, A+, A, B+.
I think we killed this.
They did not like Kevin Jenkins.
Kevin Jenkins, woof.
They did not. But you know what? That's on brand. The Jets always always reach. So it's an on brand pick for them. I'm genuinely surprised how high the Najee Harris pick. They like that. Maury, Ojulari, Tony, Bateman. Yeah,
I think we nailed this.
I think we did a great job with that.
I feel like we destroyed this.
I feel like we knocked it out of the park. I feel like, who's probably the first GM fired this year? Because I feel like the 3-man team, depending on what happens with Easterby, I guess, but if they'll never fire him. Like, who's the first GM out this year? We could probably take over as a team. 3 of you. We could get this.
I can tell you that Steve Keim is probably the worst GM.
Arizona, right?
What was that? Arizona, yeah. He's been like
Dave knows that I hate Steve Keim because I feel like he did Steve Wilkes so dirty in Arizona.
Oh, for sure.
I have no attachment to the Cardinals, but I'll never forgive him for it because it's so stupid.
I did like a study on the last 20 years of drafting, and Steve Keim was one of the worst rated GMs in the entire study that I did. He's had like a few really big hits, but otherwise, like Kyler was a pretty big hit, but otherwise it's been pretty ugly as far as drafting goes.
And he's had some off the field issues. He got arrested for DUI, I think,
right?
Which is pretty public.
When I published that, like Cardinals fans were all up in my mentions being like, yes, fire Steve Keim, fire Steve Keim. It was like the opposite of what I would have expected. Like they were like thrilled that he was rated as one of the worst GMs.
People might not know this. You might be the first person to hear this stuff, but Steve Keim is banned from this podcast. Not welcome.
Wow.
Not welcome on the show. Right, Dave? Not welcome. Steve Keim, don't care.
Pay his way on here.
We are a very pro Steve Wilkes podcast. Very pro Steve Wilkes. We have kept Doug way too long. So, Doug, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Where can the people find you and your work?
Yeah, go to Nesson.com. We've got the Nesson Patriots podcast. We just did a 7-round Patriots mock draft. So check that out. We did a different simulator for that. And yeah, follow me on Twitter at Doug Kyed. I've been doing a ton of draft stuff. So check it all out there.
Perfect. And Dave, where can we find you?
On Twitter at David_Albiani.
That's right. Don't try to find Dave anywhere else. Exclusive to Twitter. 9-figure deal. Won't find him anywhere else. I'm at Jacob_Morocco. This podcast, the CSL Podcast on Twitter. You can find us at CSLpodcast.com. All that fun stuff. We'll be back for some sports trivia tomorrow. And then, Dave, I'm not sure what we have planned for the upcoming weeks. Let me see here. That's not the right page at all. That's also not right. Maybe the third time's the charm here. Next week, we are doing our look at Mortal Kombat, which comes out this Friday. Bit of a odd couple thing there. I love Mortal Kombat. You know nothing about it, so I'm very interested.
I know less than nothing.
Yes. I'm very interested to see how it goes because I'm very excited for it. And it's an action movie, so I guarantee you'll at least enjoy it, even if you don't understand a damn thing about it. But we'll have that next week. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you later on in the week and next week as well. Let me kill the live feed here. Nope, that's the wrong tab. Where is it? There we go. Whoa, the comments. Oh, Steve.